I was 5 years old when I transformed. It was because of a strange potion brewed by a crazy old witch in the woods. Because of my love for water, swimming, and the freedom that it brings, I chose to become one of its enchanting creatures. My little legs fused together into a strong, muscular tail. My flesh erupted into scales. My hair turned to fins, and cute little gills appeared on my neck. And suddenly, I was free. It all started on a regular, normal day. My daddy was drunk and yelling at my mama. I went to school clutching my Little Mermaid doll and spent each class drawing her and writing adventurous stories about her. Then, of course, I'd get ignored by my teachers and called names and pushed around by my classmates. And when I got home, as usual, there was no food left for me. And when I asked for some, Daddy would either scream, throw things, or hit me. That day, it was a combination of all three. I'm not certain what it was, but for some reason, on that particular golden afternoon, I'd had enough. I ran out of our trailer and into the woods just as lightning streaked across the gray skies above. Rain poured down around me as I wept, running blindly through the forest. I didn't know where I was going, and truth be told, I didn't care. All I wanted was to be far away from my daddy's ire and my mother's apathy, to be truly free. And little did I know that I was going to meet someone that would give me that. She says she's a witch, but she was always more of a fairy godmother to me. Though she looked a bit frightening, she was kind and caring to all the forest creatures. But her familiar was a beautiful owl that always sat upon her shoulder. A bit kooky. She never brushed her wild white hair or wore shoes, but she did ride a broomstick and wear a black dress and a pointed hat, which was inexplicably growing mushrooms all across its wide brim. Her name was Edith, but she went by Edie. In fact, that was the first thing she told me, helping me out of a ravine I'd fallen into during a storm. Her smile was comforting, and her crystalline blue eyes were enchanting, and in that moment she was the first adult I had ever trusted. Edie nursed me back to health in her little cabin in the woods. Well, she called it a cabin, and it sort of was on the inside, but on the outside it was a giant tree stump with a door and windows, a smoking chimney and mushrooms sprouting from its top. It was there that she made potions from acorns and mushrooms and mussel shells from the lake and basically everything one could find in nature. It was one of these potions that healed me from the inside out. But when I was better, I didn't want to leave. I cried and begged her to let me stay, but I was too afraid to tell her why. Every time I told someone the problems my family had, my father would punish me severely and everything would just get worse. "I noticed the black eye you were sporting when I found you," she said in her ragged voice, standing in her kitchen with her hands on her hips. Her owl was still perched on her shoulder, as usual. "If it was from someone in your family, you can tell me. I can help you." I sniffled. Sitting on her bed on the other side of the house, I looked down at the hardwood floor. There were no walls in this building. Every room is connected to another in a large circle. "The only way you can help me is if you turn my daddy into a frog," I mumbled, thinking of the fairy tales I'd read at the school library. She scoffed. "Frogs are cute and live happy little lives," she answered, walking toward me, "and something tells me he don't deserve to live a happy little life. Is he the one that hurt you?" Tears filled my eyes at once, and I shot them back up to her. "Please don't make me go back to him," I screamed, clutching my mermaid doll to my chest. "Please." At once, she rushed over and wrapped her arms around me. Lifting me up, she cradled me and held me like my mother never did. Instead of softly shushing me or literally telling me to stop crying like my parents usually did, she remained silent and let me weep. This surprised me so much that I dropped my doll to the floor. "I'm not sending you back to him, Lachlan," she reassured, stroking her hand across the back of my hand as I sobbed into her chest. "I just want to ask you what you want." No one ever asked me that before. Calming myself, I sniffled and pulled back to meet my gaze to hers. "But what do you mean?" She tilted her head. "I can use magic. You've seen it. How can I help you with this situation? What spells can I cast? What runes can I draw? What cards can I read to make you feel better?" I swallowed. Looking back, I gazed down at my little red-haired, green-tailed mermaid doll. I remembered the colorful drawings I'd made of her and the fun adventures I wrote, and I realized that I wanted to live them out. "I want to be a Merboy," I stated sternly, turning back to her. Surprisingly, Edith got to work on the transformation potion right away, but she needed me to gather a few ingredients that she didn't have readily available in her little tree cabin, and I was more than happy to help. First, she needed more mussel shells, and I loved swimming in the creeks and the woods and the massive lake they sprouted off of, so it was easy for me to find these. She then needed some scales from a freshwater fish. This was more difficult. I actually had to steal one from the boat of a fisherman when he wasn't looking. And finally, the last ingredient was fresh water from the lake, which I gathered in an old plastic bottle. This took all damn day, but when I returned in the evening, Edith was stirring her brew. She motioned for me to dump the ingredients in, and beaming with excitement, I did exactly that. I then noticed her raising up my Little Mermaid doll and arching her brows. The final ingredient is a personal item, she explained. I'm afraid poor Ariel is perfect for that. Is that alright? I was frozen. That little hunk of plastic had been my only friend for years. Again, my eyes were filled with tears, though they weren't falling yet. Blinking, I sent them descending my cheeks as I looked up at Edith and nodded solemnly. Very well, little one, the witch said, nodding, and handed the doll to me. But you must be the one to place her into the cauldron. Taking a deep, trembling breath, I wrapped my hand around my beloved Ariel doll. I remembered seeing it in the store and begging my parents for it. The Little Mermaid was my favorite movie, and Ariel's courage had really inspired me. My mother got it for me, but did not stop my father from mocking me for it. I didn't care, though. As long as I had that doll, I was brave, just like Ariel. I threw her into the bubbling green goop, and she melted into it as if it were lava. Though my heart was breaking, I tried to remain composed. Silently gazing into that potion, I watched as it began to slowly cycle through the entire color spectrum. It was ready. Edith pulled some of it out with a massive wooden spoon and poured it into a little glass vial. After closing it with a cork, she handed it to me. When you take this, you will transform into a Merboy, she explained. You will have a tail and be able to breathe underwater, but you will never be able to return to land, and you mustn't let any humans see you, so I'd suggest saying goodbye to your parents or your friends at school beforehand. I shook my head. After gazing into the rainbow liquid, I turned from the vial and back to her. I don't have any friends, I stated, blinking, letting more tears flow. And I never want to see my parents again. And with that, I popped the cork and downed the potion at once. I felt the colors flashing through me. The transformation was sickening and painful, and I collapsed onto the floor, more thirsty than I had ever been in my life. As Edith scooped me up into her arms, concern showing in her eyes, everything faded to black. An unknown amount of time later, I found myself back floating on the surface of the lake. My eyes fluttered open, revealing glittering stars in the velvet blanket sky above. I was alone, and I was changed. At first, it felt like a dream come true. I was a merboy. I swam through the lake and rivers and deep creeks that came off of it. I found myself making friends with fish, some of which were even bigger than I was. My thick scales were strong enough to withstand the cold temperatures of the depths, and I was able to see the most beautiful sights underwater. But it all began to become quite lonely. The witch would come and visit me sometimes, just to make certain that I was all right, and I loved seeing her, truly. But she was elderly and couldn't make the trips to the lake to see me very often. One bright day, I was aimlessly drifting up a creek. The babbling water's current slowly drifted me through the forest as I back floated once again, gazing up at that blue sky between the green leaves of the forest trees above. I slowly flowed past berry bushes and colorful flowers, letting the creek take me wherever it wanted. Taking a deep breath, I meshed my webbed fingers together, cupping the back of my head with the palms of my hands, with my elbows pointing out to the sides. I closed my eyes and drifted off for a little nap beneath the sun. Suddenly, I heard the gasp of a little boy. Opening my eyes, I saw that I had arrived in a large pond. Staring at me upon a large bridge-like log of a fallen tree was a little boy about my age. His green eyes were wide with surprise, his brown hair a mess. Covered in dirt and dressed in a tattered t-shirt with Simba from the Lion King on it and shredded blue jean shorts, he froze, staring at me. As soon as he tried to step closer, lowering himself on that mossy log, he slipped. He plummeted down through the air, splashing into the water before me. Bubbles poured out of his mouth as he sank beneath the crystal surface, but he wasn't moving at all. My mind was alight with thoughts. Edith's voice, warning me to never be seen by the eyes of humans, echoed back to me. Part of me wanted to swim away, but my heart just wouldn't let me. I dived down into the depths of that surprisingly deep pond and wrapped my toned, scaly arms around that human boy. Pumping my powerful, muscular tail, I shot back up to the surface and pushed him up on the shore beneath the fallen tree, but he wasn't moving. Gazing upon his beautiful, still face, I felt a panic rise within me. I began to push his heart with my fists like I'd seen people do on TV. I then breathed into his mouth, praying for him to awaken. And soon he coughed up water and looked at me in awe. My name is Thaddeus Ray Jr., and, well, I'm not very good at making friends," he admitted in a thick southern accent, shaking his head. "But boy, I'd really like to be friends with you. If you'll have me, of course." For a moment or two, I gazed into his green eyes confusedly, studying him. Tilting my head, I thought for a moment. Maybe I should have swam away. Maybe I should have forgotten about him entirely and made sure never to be seen by a human again. Perhaps that would have been the smart thing to do. After all, it was the witch's advice. But instead, I hugged him, warmly, tightly, and he wrapped his arms around me too, and we just held each other and softly breathed in and out. Or maybe we were breathing each other in, just being there for one another like friends are supposed to. Before either of us realized it, we were both softly crying, and I could tell this boy was just as hurt as I had been, and I just couldn't swim away and leave him there in the woods all alone. After that moment, he was mine, and I was his. We held hands as we swam together in the creeks among the water moccasins and crawdads. Our splash fights were epic, and I showed him the sweetest berries to eat, and every day of our shared childhoods became a magical fairy tale.